All right, welcome back to another Theory Thursdays. And for you guys, I know when I first handed out this assignment, you all looked at me like, this is nothing. And I can't stress that how important this is. Um, as you noticed, you have 24 measures to analyze, and I'm going to go over how to do that just here in a second. But there's a reason why I'm like, oh, this is easy. It's easy. If it's really that easy, there's still a lot of you that are not scoring well on these. Like whenever we do these in class, we are not scoring well on these. So we're going to talk about how to do this assignment, and specifically the concept of subdivision and how to count. Like I know you all know how to count, but counting music is tricky, and it becomes either where it can either really confuse you if you don't know where you are and you don't know how to subdivide. It also makes really hard rhythms seem impossible. Whereas if you subdivide, you can figure out how to play rhythms correctly and efficiently instead of going and freaking out. Okay. Okay. So first things first about this assignment. Again, we're going to talk about subdividing. So I want to draw your attention to over here. This is just kind of how we break down notes, right? So here we have a whole note, big circle, right? Worth 4 beats in 4/4 time. Worth 4 beats in 4/4 time. Big circle. And if you notice, everything is over 4, so a quarter note is the beat. So 4 quarter notes equal a whole note. 4 beats is a whole note. Okay? 4 beats. You can split a whole note up into 2 half notes. Okay? Each half note is worth 2 beats, or a half note is worth 2 quarter notes, like you see here. A quarter note can be split up into 2 halves. You have 2 eighth notes here. So then you have 2 halves of a beat. Okay? If you need to hear that again, just rewind it. Okay. Yeah. Remember, how we count whole notes is you count them 1, 2, 3, 4. And when you count half notes, it's 1, 2, 3, 4. And for quarter notes, it's each beat. It's 1, 2, 3, 4. And for eighth notes, it's 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Okay, you got to put the ands in because they're going twice as fast. Going twice as fast. Okay? So, remember to subdivide. And the same thing goes for whole rests and half rests. We're going to go into rests coming up here. Now, but about this assignment, there was some confusion on how to do it. When we took our tests on Tuesday, we took our little practice tests on Tuesday. I said, just write the beats where the notes are. Okay? Visible confusion. Okay? So let's figure this out together, shall we? So I have up here, I have an example. Okay? Going to use blue and red. Blue, red. Okay? You're just going to write a number or an and where the beats are. Well, let's start over here. Okay? Right off the bat, you see we're in 3/4. There are 3 beats in a measure. Remember that? Okay? So, right here, beginning of the beat. Okay? Beginning of the beat. Okay? It's a quarter note. How many beats are in a measure? 3. What type of note gets the beat? A quarter note. Okay, right at the beginning. So this is obviously beat 1. Good so far. I hope so. Okay, what do we have next? We have another quarter note. Okay, that makes it 1, 2. This is a quarter rest. Now this is where you don't necessarily have to write the answers. Okay, but if you still want to subdivide, that's fine. Okay, here we have 3. Okay, that would be B3. That is a quarter rest. All right. Again, I will only be grading if this were the entire piece, if this were the entire assignment, I would only be grading these 2 numbers. If you wrote this number, great, I encourage it. But I'll be grading these 2 numbers. If you write out the rest, it'll be able to help you keep track better, okay? So let's keep going along. Okay, here we have eighth notes, okay? It's the start of a new measure. Here we have eighth notes, okay? This is gonna obviously start on beat 1, okay? But it's an eighth note, so it's half of a beat. So where's the other half? Luckily for us, right now, here's the other half of the beat right here. So this is 1 and, all right? Now here we have another quarter rest right here, all right? A quarter rest, again, is worth a quarter note. A beat is a quarter note. A beat is a quarter rest. So this on its own is beat 2. End of story. There's nothing else to add or subtract, okay? Now, where's beat 3? So we've already got beat 1 done. Beat 2 is covered only by the rest, So beat 3 has to start here on this eighth note. Okay, 3. It's an eighth note though, so where's the other half of it? Luckily, the other half right next to it, 3 and. Okay? Alright, now this is where things are going to get tricky. Pay attention, please. Okay? Brand new measure. Alright, where's the first note? Obviously, we're going to start on beat 1. Luckily, there's a note on beat 1. Okay? Boom saws, right there. There's beat 1. Okay, but what's next to it? This is an eighth rest. Like a quarter rest, like a quarter note, like a quarter rest, and a quarter note, they're only worth 1 beat. So an eighth note is worth a half a beat. So an eighth rest is worth a half a beat. So we do eighth notes in 1 and 2 and 3 and. Okay? So if this is going to be 1, that means this eighth rest is going to be the and. Okay? Okay, look over here. So we have beat 1's done. Beat 1's done. Check. Okay? Now we move on. So what's after beat 1? Beat 2. Duh. Beat 2. Boom. 2. Right there. Eighth note. So that means half of the beat. So where's the other half of it? Again, right next to it. Right here. As an eighth rest. Okay, so that makes this 2 and. Ready? Boom sauce. Alright? So we have beat 2 covered, right? We do. We have both halves of the eighth. We have 2 eighth notes, which equal a beat. So there's beat 2. 2 eighth notes equal 1 beat. And 3, 4. Alright? So let's move on now to beat 3. Okay? So we automatically know that whatever's next has to be beat 3. Well, ta-da! This is beat 3. This quarter note is beat 3. Alright? But it's an eighth. It's not a quarter, it's an eighth note. It's a quarter note. I'm sorry. This eighth note is beat 3. Again, so where's the other half of the note? Again, next to it. I did these patterns simply. Okay? Didn't have to write as hard. Didn't think as hard. Alright? These patterns. So that means this eighth rest is then the and of 3. Boom. Done. Alright? Now, let's look at this monstrosity right over here. Okay? We need to now move on directly to beat 1. Okay? So whatever this is going to be beat 1, because this is the first thing in the measure. This is going to be beat 1. Alright? Now, if you notice, it's an eighth rest. Okay? It's still beat 1. It's still the beat 1. You're just not playing it. So this is beat 1. Okay? And it's an eighth rest, so we need another half. Well, if you look next to it, here's the other half right here. And. Yes, your eighth note is and. That eighth note is and. Okay? You rest on the first half of 1, and then you would play on the and of 1. Okay? Alright, let's keep going. So we have beat 1 done. Beat 1 is done. Now we got to find beat 2. So the next thing after we finish beat 1 is beat 2. Math. Okay? So here's beat 2. Oh, but wait, it's the rest again. 2. It's an eighth rest, so we need the other half. The other half is the eighth note right next to it. So and. Alright. Now beat 3, again, we finished beat 2. We need to go directly to beat 3. Okay, the next thing after beat 2 is beat 3. Okay, again, this is a rest. This is a rest. Alright, it's an eighth rest, so the other half of it needs to be near. So the other half of it, of course, is this right here. Alright? Now, this would be a good time before we go into the last measure to again remind you of what I am grading. All of the numbers that you see in blue, all of the notes, not the rests, all of the notes, that's what I'm grading. Again, you can write every single thing out, okay? And I will not count it against you. I encourage it, so that way you can keep track of where you are. So please write out all the subdivisions. But I am only grading I'm only grading the notes. Basically, let me simplify it. Write out everything, and it's just you're not gonna, just write out everything, okay? Write out everything, and I'll grade it accordingly. It'll help you stay in track, okay? Write out everything, write out the subdivisions. Slow down and think. Don't just breeze through this and think this is an easy thing, okay? Because there will be some things you get wrong. All right, now, we have finished this measure, okay? Brand new measure, so the first thing you see in the measure is going to be beat 1. Okay, so what do we see? The first thing in the measure. Okay, boom, beat 1, right there. That's an eighth note. It's half of the beat, so we need the other half of the beat. Where's the other half of the beat? It's right next to it, the eighth rest. Okay, so there's the and. 1 and. Beat 1, done. We got got to find beat 2. So what's the next thing after beat 1 to start beat 2? What's that? It's quarter rest. Boom. Quarter rest, quarter note. Quarter note gets the beat. Quarter rest gets a beat. So all of beat 2 right here, done. Okay? Beat 2, done. Moving on. We need to find beat 3. Where's beat 3? The only thing left. That quarter note right there. This is beat 3. Done. Okay? Subdivision is incredibly important. Counting is incredibly important. All right? Muy importante. Now, let's get into some trickier stuff. Okay? Down here, we are now in 4/4. 4 beats in a measure, quarter note still gets the beat. Okay? So, first things first, measure 1, right here. What is this? It's a whole note. Boom. Whole note. What beat does it start on? Ryan? Or anybody who's watching this video? I don't care. I'm sorry. I feel like that was a question I would ask in class. Like, Ryan, what beat is it on? Anyway, that was weird. Sorry, Ryan, if you're watching the video, I just called you out. Anyway, this starts on beat 1, right? Boom, beat 1. Okay? You can write 2, 3, and 4. I got no problem with that. Helps keep track of where you are. All right? Whole note starts on beat 1. Makes sense. This is a whole rest. This is a whole rest. Okay? This is a whole rest. It's worth 4 beats. All right? It's worth 4 beats right here. Okay? Now, because it's a rest, it's not a note, technically, in this measure, you wouldn't have to write anything and it'd be right. But I'm encouraging to still count and do it with subdivisions. So this starts on beat 1, it does beat 2, it does beat 2, and 3, and 4. Okay? Boom. Okay? Now we move on. New measure. Beat 1. What's it start? What starts it? Okay? Half note right here. Boom. Starts on beat 1. Alright? It covers beat 1 and beat 2 because it's a half note. Alright? This we have a half rest. Okay? Think about it like this. Half rest and whole rest. Think about it like this. Think about you're wearing a hat. Okay? You're wearing a bucket hat. I mean, not a bucket hat. You're wearing a cowboy hat. A 10-gallon hat. Okay? A 10-gallon hat. It's pretty light, right? 10-gallon hat. You just put it on. Boom. Now. So that's only worth 2. A hat, 2. If that hat is full, it's worth 4. And it flips over. If you put a 10-gallon bucket hat full of water on your head, there's a good chance it's going to flip over. Okay? Hat is 2 beats. Half rest. Hat, half. Hat, half. So that means the upside down hat is a whole rest. Okay? 2, 4. So we know this is beat 1. Anyway, let's go back to this. We know this is beat 1. This half note starts on beat 1. Okay? It covers beat 1 and it covers beat 2. Alright? So where does beat 3 start? Beat 3 starts on the half rest. Okay? Beat 3. And because it's worth 2 beats, it also takes up beat 4. Boom. This measure, done. Moving right along. We need to find beat 1 of the next measure. Beat 1 of the next measure, right here. What's the first thing we see? Another half rest. So we know this has to be beat 1. Boom. And it's a half rest, so it's worth 2 beats. Covers beat 2. Boom. Okay? So, the first beat that this half note starts on is beat 3. This starts on beat 3 and contains beat 4. Okay? Alright. Let's go on. These are getting trickier on purpose. I designed it that way because I'm special. Alright. New measure. We need to find beat 1. The first thing we find is the start of beat 1. What do we find here? Quarter note, boom. Quarter note, boom. Okay? Alright, beat 1. Done. Where's beat 2? Right next to it. Duh. I can count. I'm silly. Beat 2. Right next to it. Boom. Okay? This also, because it's a half note, absorbs beat 3. Alright? So what's the next note going to be then? It's just going to be beat 4. Because this is beats 2 and 3 in this half note right here. This is beats 2 and 3 in this half note right here. So this quarter note, the only thing that's left is 4. Boom. Alright, now buckle your seatbelts. This is about to get tense. Okay? We talked about eighth notes up there in the 3-4. So the eighth notes are now back. So let's bug the eighth notes now. Alright? Brand new measure. We're in 4-4. Remember that. We're in 4-4 down here. Okay? Brand new measure. We start with what number? 1! Because that's how math works and counting works. Now I know some of you are going to be like, well, it starts with 0. No, in music it starts with 1. Anyway, moving on. Being too silly. Anyway, so first thing you find is beat 1. Well, the first thing we find here is boom, beat 1. Okay, but it's an eighth note again. It's an eighth note. So we need to find the other half of it because an eighth note is only worth half of a beat. So the half of the eighth note, the half of beat 1, is directly next to it as an eighth rest. Oh boy. Why can I not draw an ampersand? There we go. That's an ampersand. Okay? Beat 1, done. Okay? Because we figured out 1 and. So, where's beat 2? The next best thing. What is after this? What is after beat 1? Boom. Beat 2 has to be right there. Alright? It's a half note. So it covers beat 2 and beat 3. Okay? So beat 2 and beat 3 are done. There's people outside my door. Beats 2 and beats 3, done. So now we start with beat 4. Okay? What's the next thing after beat 2 and 3? Okay? This right here. This is an eighth rest. So here's the start of 4. Alright? There's the start of 4. It's an eighth rest though, so we need the other half of beat 4. Luckily, there's not much after beat 4 because you can't go to beat 5 because there's not 5 beats in a measure. So whatever is next to beat 4 is going to be the other half of beat 4. Okay? So what's next to beat 4 is this note right here. Is this eighth note. Boom. Okay? Alright. Are your seatbelts buckled? From that hard problem? Well, you better fasten your seatbelts and put on your racing helmets because this one's going to blow your mind. Okay, we're going to talk about this tomorrow in class. I know, especially with 7th grade, maybe 8th grade. I don't remember. We're talking about my computer's. Wake up, computer. Wake up. Talking about a concept called syncopation, where it looks tricky. Okay? Now, remember, simple concept, really fast. Eighth notes. Oh, my computer's gonna fall asleep again. Eighth notes. 2 eighth notes. Equal a quarter note. It's in frame. 2 eighth notes equal a quarter note. Right? That's how we get 1 and that covers the beat. Alright? So, when you beam these together, looks like a smiley face. When you tie these together, when you tie 2 eighth notes together, they are the same length as a quarter note because half plus a half equals 1. Again, that's how math works. If I take half of a cookie and combine it with the other half of the cookie, I would have 1 cookie. And I'm hungry, so I would like a cookie, but I don't have it. Sad day. Moving on. When you tie 2 eighth notes together, they are essentially equal to the length of a quarter note. Okay? So eighth notes separate is 1 and 2 and. If you tie eighth notes together, it's 1 and 2 and. Or 1, 2, 3. Tied eighth notes that are tied together are equal to the length of a quarter note. So if we go to the headache, that is the last measure, which is, oh shit, I dropped my marker. We go to this last measure here, okay? Start of a new measure. We first need to find, the first thing we're going to find is beat 1, okay? So what's the first thing we find? Beat 1 is boom. Boom, right there. Okay. Now we know eighth note is half of a beat. So whatever's next is probably going to be the start of the other half. So what's directly next to this eighth note? Okay, boom, right there. So that's an and. Now hang on. That's a quarter note. That's a quarter note right there. Some of you are going, this isn't making any sense. Hold your horses. Green marker. This quarter note is essentially equal to another way that I could have written this measure, and I didn't do this on purpose, was I could have written the measure like this. Oh, I did that wrong. That's how I could have written the measure. Okay? If you notice, you still have your eighth note right here that is lined up. And then we just talked about how when you tie two eighth notes together, they are the length of the quarter note. So, and again, we know that this first eighth note is on the beat of 1. And so whatever's next has to be the and of 1. Has to start on the and of 1. Okay? But, so 1 and. Right? 1 and. Alright? Now this is tied together, hence why it equals a quarter note. So, going forward, what is this going to be? So we already know that 1 and is done. The and of 1 and the beginning of beat 2 are tied together. And then you have this eighth note all over here by itself. This is equal to this. This quarter note contains the and of 1 and the on of 2, the first half of beat 2, the second half of beat 1, and the first half of beat 2. That's why it's tied together. So, if we've already moved past that this contains the and of 1 and the first half of beat 2 in this quarter note, so what do we need to do to complete beat 2? We need another eighth note. Well, if you look, I just happen to have another eighth note right here. So this is not 3, or this eighth note is not 3. It is not 2. It is the and of 2. And. Okay? So beats 1 and beats 2 are done. Check. What's next is beat 3. Lucky for us, beat 3 is right here. But this is a rest. So this is beat 3 as a quarter rest. Boom. Check. Beat 3 covered. So where's beat 4? This quarter note. Boom. Check. So for those of you that said, oh, this was going to be a piece of cake, and I know there's a lot of confusing numbers up here. I know it basically looks like the Electoral College map. Little political joke. Ba-doom. Thank you. I'll be here all day. Anyway. The thing is, you have to count. You have to subdivide. You have to know how long an eighth note is, which is half of a quarter note. You need to know a quarter note is 1 beat in 3/4 and 4/4. Okay? You need to know a half note is 2 beats in 3/4 and 4/4. A whole note is 4 beats in 4/4, because you can't have a whole note in 3/4. Okay? Use this chart. Use this. You have to know how to subdivide, because the rhythms are going to get hard. The rhythms are going to get really, really hard, really, really fast. So you need to know how to count. And you need to understand how we divide music. Music is very mathematic, okay? But the nice thing about it is math is like multiples of like 67, okay? Music is just in chunks of 2s and 4s, okay? Or 3, depending on if you're in 3/4, okay? It's just in chunks of 2s and 4s. And there's patterns, and these patterns repeat, okay? All right, let's do the 12th, okay? We got this today. And again, for some reason, if you lose this piece of paper, you can still do one of 2 things. If it's before the day of, you can ask me for a new one before the day of. So don't come to me on the 12th and go, I need a new piece of paper. I will not print one for you because A, I don't have time, and B, you don't have time. So there's that. Also, you can do it online. This is an easy enough assignment where you can just enter the numbers in. And do a simple text box and enter that into Canvas. Okay? If you have any questions, let me know.